Massive bombshell breaking news developments in the biggest scandal ever involving Russia. Now, we'll continue to do what the corrupt, lying mainstream media will not do, because we will prove tonight they are complicit in what is a huge cover-up. We're going to explain how the Clintons, the Obama administration, created a massive national security crisis by handing Vladimir Putin of Russia and the Russians 20% of America's uranium, which is the foundational material to make nuclear weapons. And tonight, we will explain in detail who and how many people knew that the Russians had infiltrated America's uranium market, and how all of this was all before the Uranium One deal. Well, that's the subject of tonight's mini monologue. All right, tonight, John Solomon, Sarah Carter, they're investigative reporters. They're the ones who have been breaking this Russia nuclear scandal wide open. Now, they're going to be joining us in just a little bit. And guess what? They have new stunning information tonight. Here's the headline from John Solomon's new report. It says, Bill Clinton sought states' permission to meet with Russian nuclear director during Obama uranium decision. Now, according to John Solomon, while Bill Clinton was getting ready to collect $500,000 for a speech in Moscow, double his normal speaking fee, he was also seeking State Department clearance to meet with a key official with the Russian nuclear energy company involved in this Uranium One deal. Sarah Carter also reporting, quote, U.S. consulting firms with ties to the Clintons lobbied on behalf of Russia's nuclear giant. Now, Sarah tonight is reporting that an American lobbying firm, that they took millions of dollars from a Russian state-run nuclear energy corporation, while at the same time providing pro bono services to the Clinton Global Initiative. And that's not all. These payments took place in 2010 and 2011. Well, that's when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State and helped approve this Uranium One deal. Now, earlier today, the president weighed in heavily on this Russian collusion national security crisis. And this is important. Watch this.
If the mainstream media would cover the uranium scandal and that Russia has 20% of our uranium, for whatever reason, and a lot of people understand what those reasons may be, I think that's your Russia story. That's your real Russia story, not a story where they talk about collusion and there was none. It was a hoax. Your real Russia story is uranium and how they got all of that uranium, a vast percentage of what we have. That is, to me, one of the big stories of the decade.
Thank God the president is speaking out. He is absolutely correct. And it is what we have been telling you now for months and months. Democrats, the fake news media, have been outright lying to you nonstop for over a year about Russia and what's really going on. Now, they have been creating distractions, feigning outrage, moral outrage, pushing black helicopter conspiracy theories, despite all the evidence that is in, and they had no evidence on their side. Now, this is all an attempt to conceal now the real truth from you, the American people, about Russia, about Vladimir Putin, and what is now his successful efforts to infiltrate the American uranium market. Now, all the evidence of corruption and criminal conduct in one of the biggest scandals in American history has been sitting right in front of the Democrats, right in front of the media. But because they're rigid ideologues, they're choosing to ignore it. And by the way, that makes them complicit in putting all of us in America in danger. Now, this new information that we have tonight builds on John Solomon and Sarah Carter's reporting from earlier this week. Now, here are the highlights of what we know now and why this is such a massive scandal. Now, back in 2009, the FBI discovered real evidence in the form of documents, emails, financial records from eyewitnesses and FBI informants that had infiltrated, on behalf of the FBI, the Russian nuclear industry and meeting with these officials. All on behalf, they're doing this on behalf of Vladimir Putin and Moscow. What were they doing? They were engaging in bribery. The FBI knew it. Kickbacks, the FBI knew it. Money laundering, the FBI knew it. Extortion and other types of racketeering and all sorts of other criminal conduct. So why was all this happening? Because Vladimir Putin had a goal. He set out to corner America's uranium market. Now, sadly, because of the Obama administration, he got Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, and all these others, because of their stupidity, their ineptness, and their corruption, Vladimir Putin succeeded. Now, despite knowing all of this in 2009, when 2010 comes around, while the Russians were carrying out this bribery scheme, and they'd been doing it for over a year, and the FBI knew over a year, including Hillary Clinton and many others, they ended up still approving this corrupt Uranium One deal that gave 20% of America's uranium to Russia. There's also another massive part of this story involving the Clintons. Now, The Hill and CircaNews.com have also reported that the FBI has evidence. This includes eyewitness accounts that the Russian nuclear officials were funneling millions and millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation while Hillary was actually serving as Secretary of State and personally signing off on the Uranium One deal. And according to both explosive reports, the Obama administration, they hid the evidence of this Russian bribery plot from Congress. There's an FBI informant. He wanted to tell Congress. He wants to share it with Congress today. And he wants to tell the American people. Well, what's happened? He's been threatened with lawsuits and retribution of all kinds. You, the American people, all of us should be outraged over what has happened here. And by the way, we all need to demand answers. Now, the Clintons and the Obama administration have created what is nothing short of a clear and present danger to those responsible. I say this: you need to be held accountable. You need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We're also learning that back in 2015, now this is 5 years after this Uranium One deal was completed, the New York Times, they reported that the Russian nuclear company, Uranium One, was actually exporting yellow cake uranium outside of the country to Canada, even though it didn't have a license. So basically, understand this, the Obama administration, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, what they allowed in this deal was Vladimir Putin to export yellow cake uranium, which can be used to create nuclear warheads. And by the way, what he does with it, does anybody know? By the way, is he giving it to North Korea? Is he giving it to Iran? Nobody has any idea. This is a direct national security threat to every man, woman, and child, not only in this country, but around the world. And as we have been telling you, finally, the Senate Judiciary Committee has now announced they are launching an investigation into what top Obama administration officials knew about the evidence surrounding this corrupt Uranium One deal. There are several key players that need to be hauled before Congress, forced to testify. It needs to be under oath. They need to explain why they gave one of America's biggest adversaries control of 20% of our uranium supply. Then, of course, there's former Attorney General Eric Holder. Well, he was the head of the DOJ. They oversee the FBI. The FBI knew in 2009. He also sat on the committee that approved the Uranium One deal. There's no way that Holder did not know what Russia was trying to do. So it's time for Mr. Holder to start talking and answering questions. And then, of course, these names will all sound familiar. You have the Deputy Attorney General today, Rod Rosenstein. He's now, of course, he's second under the Department of Justice under our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And then we have Andrew McCabe. They were actually oversaw the FBI's operation into the Russian bribery case, so they clearly were well aware about what was taking place. So they need to be put under oath. They need to tell us why were they silent. Then there's now the special counsel, Robert Mueller. He was serving as the FBI director back in 2009 when the Russian bribery and money laundering all began. Mueller, too, he should not be leading any probes into Russian collusion. Guess why? He should be answering questions about the real Russian scandal, and he should be put under oath. Now, the conduct of Rod Rosenstein, Neil McCabe, Robert Mueller, frankly, is inexcusable. There's a massive conflict of interest. They've told nobody. And by the way, in no way can they be trusted to conduct a fair investigation into anything that involves Russia when they were involved in this massive scandal. So it's time for them to literally either resign, get out of the way, or come public with everything they know. As of my position, I think they've been compromised, especially when it comes to Russia. Now, it's well past time for many of them to go. These people are corrupt. They've been compromised. And finally, you got the liberal mainstream media. Now, for years, we've been telling you journalism is dead. They've been lying to you, the American people, for well over a year about Russia, Russia, Russia. The press has been spreading fake news, conspiracy theories almost 24/7, nonstop. Now, why? Why are they so silent in this case? Because they've wanted to create as many distractions as possible to hide the truth. Now, here are just some of the examples of the liberal mainstream media in action, just to remind you. Take a look.
But first, we want to start with This Week in Russiagate.
It is as if there are no shoes on the Trump human centipede that are not about Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia.
This cloud about collusion with Russia will hang over him no matter where he stands.
It certainly feels like we're in the opening stages of a devastating political chapter in American history. Evidence is mounting for the president's meddling in the Russia probe.
Tom Friedman said the election hacking is at the caliber of a Pearl Harbor or a 9/11. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that.
Donald Trump now sits at the threshold of impeachment.
I personally think it's over. I don't think there's anything that can be done that can stop this at this point. Cacophony, this gushing of lies, problems, questions, chaos that will stop this presidency in its tracks.
You told the Washington Post last week that, quote, there's a smell of treason in the air when it comes to this investigation.
A lot of people are afraid to use the T word, treason, but in the end, that's what people are investigating.
It does look like collusion. It does look like he's listening to Putin more than he is American intelligence. And frankly, I've never seen that before.
The corrupt, rigid, radical, left-wing ideological media, and of course, their love of all things Clinton. They never investigated. How did Bill Clinton double his speaking fees in Moscow? And how at the time was he praising this deal while in Moscow? And the money flowing up to $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. She's signing off on the deal. By the way, where did that money really come from? Now, the media has so much concern about Russia, and Russia influencing America and the dangers of Vladimir Putin. Well, this could end up now being the biggest breaches of American national security in our history. And after them telling us how dangerous Putin is and how dangerous Russia is, this is beyond media malpractice. This is an agenda. The media does not care about the truth. They don't care about facts. They don't care about investigative reporting. Radical, rigid, left-wing ideologues who lie to you on a regular basis and are hell-bent on one thing and one thing only, destroying President Trump. It's why even after John Solomon, Sarah Carter's reporting, they have ignored this massive scandal. Imagine for just a second if Donald Trump ever gave 20% of America's uranium to Vladimir. How would they be reacting? And he got money kicked back to the Trump Foundation. Now, according to the Media Research Center, all network newscasts, they haven't touched this story. It's like a complete united blackout. The MRC found that CNN devoted a whopping 19 seconds to it. This is pathetic, and it proves a point I've been making now since 2007. Media in America is dead, and in this case involving national security, they are complicit, totally and completely complicit in this scandal. Unbelievable.